Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero. You know where you're at. You know what room you're at. You don't even have to know my name. I've done this too much, and you're probably thinking, like, you wearing this again? Nah, we're batching episodes. So we are in the superhero battle room as usual, going over and bringing Brian Arrington. I hope I got that right. He is a veteran who has served his country and now is serving us in the industry. And you'll get that in a moment when we bring him on stage. So let's bring him on so you can go find out how you can get into the industry. All right, Brian, do I have you?
You do. Hey, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. So we are just going to jump right into it to start. What inspired you to join the military, either many moons or many moments ago?
Yeah, so I joined back in May of '99, and the reason is kind of silly. I was living at home with my parents, and was in my freshman year of college, and my parents decided to take a trip over to Africa, to the Gambia, and they went for a month. I thought this was cool. You know, I got the house myself. I never had the house myself before. Do a little bit of party and stuff like that. But when they came back, they said, "Hey, we decided we're going to sell the house and move to Africa." And I was like, "Whatever." I was an 18-year-old college student living in New York, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come with us?" It's like, "You're not moving to Africa. Whatever." You know, and 3 months later, the house was sold, the cars were sold, and they're like, "You coming?" I'm like, "No." And all I could think about was, those commercials back in the day where it had videos of third world countries and flies flying around people's heads and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, I'm not moving from Westchester County, New York, to some third world country to be living like that without TV or internet or anything. So I said no. And so they sent me to live out with the family attorney out in Long Island, which I didn't even really know the family very well. And sure enough, they moved to Africa, and I was pretty bitter because, like, my family ran away from home. My parents ran away from home, and so I was going to school, and come about February, we were on a winter break, and I asked my friends, what do you guys think of the Air Force or the Navy? And at that point, the only thing I knew about the military was like war movies and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm not into that. I still want quality of life. That was important to me because I wasn't doing this to hurt myself. I was doing it to disappoint my family, or what I thought was going to disappoint them, just to get back at them for moving. Stupidest reason ever. And my friend said, definitely Air Force. I was like, yeah, 'cause I don't want to be in the Navy. I don't want to be out on a ship for 6 months. Like, I can't even swim. That would drive me crazy. So that spring, did what I needed to do. Got signed up with a recruiter, and decided to join the U.S. Air Force as a security forces specialist, which at the time I thought was special forces. So the recruiter got me. I wish I remembered his name, but showed me a videotape dating myself of some guys rappelling off a helicopter and riding an ATV in the woods. And come 3 months later, I'm at the base gate doing this number. I was like, where's my rappel and my ATV? But it was a good time. I had a great career, and wouldn't have traded for anything. And so yeah, that's why I joined. Not why I stayed, but that's why I joined.
Yours was at least more thought out than mine. I got called by the recruiter, and literally they said, "Hey, do you want to come in the Air Force?" I said, "No." And he's like, "Hey, do you know this girl?" I said, "Yes. Would you willing to pick her up?" I had a crush on her since ninth grade. So I drove her to tell her about, "Hey, I've had a crush on you. Will you date me?" She says she has a boyfriend. So when I went to the recruiter's office, my heart's crushed. And then I'm going over and getting more interested, and then she's getting less interested. So long story short, if it wasn't because of a crush on a girl, so at least yours was getting back at family. I had no chance once I drove in the car and she's like, I already have a boyfriend. I'm like, there goes my heart. And I guess I'm in too. So like literally about a month or two later, I went in. And so if that recruiter never called me, if it wasn't that girl, I would have never went into service. At least yours was a little more thought out, a little more strategic than mine. Mine was all emotional.
You know, thinking about myself at that age, I probably would have done the exact same thing you did. Like, oh yeah, I'll definitely take her, and I'm definitely gonna pour my heart out to her in the car, and I'd be devastated. So I think I would have done exactly the same thing you did.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that some people don't realize when you do this illustrious career is that you'll look the motives of 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's not as pure as they are as they get. It's like they have been sanctified since then. So speaking of that, how long were you in and when did you leave?
Yeah, so crazy thing. So in my first enlistment, I was only gonna do 4 years. Like that was the bare minimum, right? I was already coming in as an A1C in my first class because I had 45 college credits. And I was like, there's nothing that the recruiter could give me to make me want to stay longer. You know, they gave me a bonus coming in and they were like, hey, we'll do all this for you. I was like, no, I'm just doing four. And I came in and 2 years later, September 11th happened. You remember, I'm from New York. And at the time, I was stationed at McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey, which was like the meanest trick that the Air Force could have pulled on me. I was like, I want to travel. And I go through basic, go through tech school, and I get stationed in Jersey. Like, I'm from New York. Like, nobody goes to Jersey unless you go onto the shore or Atlantic City. And I was like, this is like the cruelest joke. And I was stationed there for 13 years. But I ended up actually doing 20 years, 1 month, and 12 days in the Air Force. At the first day possible I could get out, I got out because I was ready to. But the first like 13 years of my career, 12 years was amazing. And then as a senior NCO, my last 7 years was not as inspiring as the first 12 years were. And I was able to mentor a lot of people, which was great. And that was what I liked, but I didn't like the office politics uh, at that point in my life. So I was ready to go when I hit that button 1 year out. And the only reason why I had to do an extra month was I came in May 19th, 2019, and I did my transfer of eligibility benefits at 16 years and 1 month. And because of that, you incur a 4 year active duty commitment. So the first time I could get out was at 20 years and 1 month. And then those extra 12 days is from the 19th to the 31st. So 20 years, 1 month, and 12 days was the day that I got out.
Ooh. That is the interesting part too. I'm going through my retirement. I'm doing a retirement journey on Facebook. I'm at 339 days. I saw my thing today, went up to my commander, and it says, oh, about the GI Bill. It says, oh, it was like May 18th of 2018 is when I met the requirement. So I'm like, punks, you got nothing on me. I can leave when I want. So I'm like, so it's very interesting. There is waivers for that, and people won't waiver that stuff. I'm like, really? I'm like, we waiver everything else in
Oh
the
yeah.
military. And we're like, no, it's education. We have to go over and make you committed. And I'm like, all right, thanks. I'm like, 1 month, really? Come on. It's like, you met like 95% of it. It is amazing. But yeah, it took like an extra week or two because my education guy is double checking all my information. I'm like, I've done nothing for like 6 years in education. I did this stuff way long time ago. And it's like, yep. So we're almost at the last step. So I get where you're talking about. That would have like crushed me if I saw that in the next piece and I'm like, what? No. I'm like, because they're like, when you're ready to go, you're ready to go. And you're like,
Yeah.
I'm already having to give you 6 months to a year notice. I'm like, I'm giving you plenty of time. You don't get that in the civilian world. You give like deuces like this and
Yeah.
that's it. So it's very interesting on that
Well,
particular.
I feel like I got back at the military in my last 6 months because I in my last year on active duty, I learned everything I possibly could about transitioning and resources. And I can talk. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit when we talk about vets industry. But I was able to do DoD skill bridge in my last 180 days. It was actually 6 months. And that was before they had all those changes now to the system where you could only, you could only basically do a 3 month or 4 month skill bridge. Back then, you could do a full 6 months in the Air Force, and I took advantage of every single day. And so I feel like that last year flew by, really flew by. So an extra month didn't kill me.
Yeah, plus probably that double dipping was amazing. So we're going to get into the point of transition. So how did you make your transition to transformation? Because it sounds like you were already transformed a year prior in making those decisions. How did you make that difference? Because a lot of us don't. We make that transition and then we get stuck. So what made it from a transition to a transformation?
It happened by accident. So in my last year on active duty, I found LinkedIn by accident. I had no idea what LinkedIn was, and I thought it was like a job board or something like that. And I was basically at home. I came back from a shift, and I turned on the news, and there was a commercial running. It says join 500,000 or 500 million of us. And I was like, what is this? And it was a commercial for LinkedIn. So I was like, yeah, let me check this thing out. And I get on there, don't have a picture, don't have, bio, didn't know a thing about LinkedIn. And I was like, well, let me look up veterans. And I found this group that was on LinkedIn, and I joined it. And, one of the things immediately when I joined it, I had a guy reach out to me that owned the group and said, I'd love to know, what brought you to us, and I see that you're a transitioning service member. I'm like, how can you possibly know I'm a transitioning service member? He's like, because you have no picture, you have no bio, and you found our group. I was like, okay. Me trying to be all coy and everything didn't work out so well. And then literally, I don't know, 10 minutes later, if that, I had another individual reach out to me from the group. His name was Kenya Spratt, and he was an Army E7 Ranger at Fort Benning. He was transitioning out, and he said, "Hey, man, I see that you're transitioning out, and that you're over there in at Warner Robins Air Force Base." So he's like, "Have you heard of Centurion Military Alliance?" He actually said CMA. It's like, "What's CMA?" It's like Centurion Military Alliance. It's like, "What's that?" And he said it's a veteran service organization that provides the ability to learn about resources and get you ready for transitioning. And he said it's like TAP on steroids. It's like TAP on steroids. And I hadn't been to TAP yet, Transition Assistance Program. So like, okay. And he's like, it's the next day. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to work this next day. I'm going to go. So I ended up going. I drove 2 hours to Fort Benning. Never been out there before. And I'm sitting through this class, and in the first 30 minutes, I learned that there was over 45,000 veteran service organizations nationwide that provided free resources, services, and benefits. And it's Shantae Hall, who was running Centurion Military Alliance, gave me that information, and it crushed my soul because all I could think about was how many airmen have I let get out the military without setting them up for success on the outside due to my own ignorance on the existence of all these free resources. And then I'm sitting in the front row, Kenya's next to me, and I actually start tearing up. And like, how many of those airmen are part of at the time, 22, but we know it's 44 now, that have killed themselves a day since then? How many of my airmen or unemployed or underemployed or on substance abuse or divorced or homeless or incarcerated, all because I, Brian Arrington, Master Sergeant Arrington, did not tell them about a free resource that could have given them hope leaving the military. It kept them alive. So immediately went home and I said, there's got to be a place, a single site repository where all these free resources are co-located. And I went on there and I was Googling everything: veteran transitioning, veteran service organizations, military transitioning, military careers. And I couldn't find a single site repository where all the free resources were. So like, how can we possibly know there's 45,000 of them if there's no website for it? And so I kind of put that on the back burner, but I started researching everything I possibly could about transitioning. I started following, some of the greats on LinkedIn that were transitioning specialists. And then everything changed in December of 2018. I had an individual who I just really reconnected with. Funny, his name is Chris Dove. He works for Align Data Center. And Chris sent me a message. He was a Navy nuke. He sent me a message on LinkedIn. At this point, I've been on LinkedIn for about 6 months. I had, it just hit 500. I think I had 600 followers or connections and followers. And he said, "Hey man, I'm getting out of the military. Next month, I'm going to be working for Orion Talent, and I'm going to have access to 700 jobs nationwide. But I don't have any veterans in my network. And I see that you're posting all the time about transitioning resources and stuff like that. Would you mind posting for me and getting the word out?" I was like, "Yeah, man." And my New York swag came out. I was like, "Yo, I got you. I'm going to fill all those 700 jobs. Watch this." And I still had seven months to go before I was transitioning out. And so I did one little post. I say, "Veterans career opportunities. Post below your desired career role, desired geographic location, and when you can start working. And my friend Chris Dove will help you find a job anywhere in this nation." Such an ignorant post that should have just died on impact, but instead it went super viral. And when I say super viral, at the end of 4 weeks, we had over 800,000 views on that one post, and we had over 1,100 comments. It was like a few thousand likes. I mean, it was incredible. And what happened was companies were coming on there and posting their open job roles, and service members, veterans, were posting the careers that they were interested in. And I had gotten Chris and a few other people at the time that became volunteers before there was even an organization. And we were tagging people in the threads of the companies that were looking for people like them. So we were going through these thousands of comments, and we were just tagging people and connecting. And people were getting jobs off of this 24/7 career fair on LinkedIn, which was incredible. It lasted for like 4 months or 4 weeks. And at the end of the 4 weeks, something miraculous happened. And this changed my whole trajectory of transitioning. And we had veteran advocates find the post, and they started commenting, "Hey, have you heard about 4Block or Bunker Labs or IVMF, Institute of Veterans and Military Families out of Syracuse?" And all, just hiring heroes, Hire Heroes USA. And people were all saying the same thing. "What's that? Can I use this? I've been out for 5 years. Can I use IVMF? Can I use 4Block?" And I realized these people don't need to wait any longer. These people are getting out like tomorrow. Like, this is the end of December, that people are getting out, and they don't know about these free resources that are available to them. And I was like, these people are going to become part of that 22 that kill themselves a day because they are not aware. So I said, "You know what? I gotta create this resource library." And that's where I went online, and I started, I got on Wix, which was, create your own web page. And out here I am, security forces, a cop, military cop, had no technical background or anything, and I'm trying to put together like this massive resource library web page. And it took me 3 hours to even just try to get the heading. And I was like, "You know what? I can't do this."
You
So
should
I
have
went
just
on
called me.
LinkedIn. Yeah. Well, at the time, yeah. And so I went online and I did a Boolean search for service members or veterans that had web design backgrounds. And I found somebody. I reached out to her. I said, "Hey, this is what I want to do. I want to build the Library of Atlantis for veterans, military families, and current service members. But I don't know how to build a website. Would you get on a 15-minute call with me?" And she hits me back like 30 minutes later, says, "Yeah, I got you." Her name was Bobby Young, and got on a call with her and told her what I wanted to do. And she said, at the end of 5 minutes, she says, "I'm on board. I want to do this. Not only will I build a website for you, but I take on one pro bono a quarter, and I want to make you my permanent pro bono." So she didn't take a dime from me. She built the first Vets to Industry. At the time, it was vetsindustry.com, because I didn't know anything about nonprofits or for profits. And I spent the last $2,000. The only savings I had that was transitioning out with a family with 6 kids. And I was like, you know what, this is important. So I spent $2,000 on Swift filings to create Vets to Industry. And about a year later, I was able to transition it to a nonprofit. But we built the website, and I gave her 72 resources that I had vetted and curated myself. And that was the start of Vets to Industry. Before March of 2019 is when the website went live, which is now at vets2industry.org. And we've just amassed over 1,000 free resources since then. Plus, I've got another 8,000 in the queue that have been vetted, and they're just being tagged right now to be added to the library. So pretty soon, we're going to have the largest resource library that's ever existed for veterans and military families of free resources. And I'm super pumped for that. And hopefully, by the end of the year, we have all 8,000 on there. But that was part of my transition to Vets Industry. And through about 3 weeks before I got out, I still needed a job that wasn't going to pay me anything. I was doing that volunteering.
Yeah.
And I met a guy in my last year, Justin Pearson, who worked for Wells Fargo. And he said, "Hey man, have you thought about coming over and working in the finance industry?" I was like, "I don't know anything about finance. Like, no, I can't do that." He's like, "You don't need to know anything about finance." I was like, "How do I not need to know anything about finance to join a bank?" And he's like, "There's a lot of different roles that don't have anything to do with finance." And 3 weeks before I got out, I was hired by Wells Fargo as a business initiatives consultant, working with risk management and change management, and was able to leverage my military experience and as a senior NCO and NCO, helping people to identify issues within their sections and help them out. And for 3 years, I worked for Wells Fargo before I did some transitionings to some other industries, military recruiting for Military Hiring Accelerator, and then did that for a year. And then I went a year and worked for a company called Rapid Ascent, which Vets Industry still has a partnership with. They're a cybersecurity training academy, amazing academy that helps people that have no cyber background, trains them for 17 weeks, gets them Sec Plus or CISA Plus, and introduces them to companies like Boeing and Lockheed and other organizations. Yeah, it's great. And then in my last, at the end of that year, we found a company called Signal Health Group who fell in love with our mission. And they decided that the only thing that was keeping Vets Industry from really soaring was the fact that I couldn't do it full time. I was doing it at nights and weekends. And so they went ahead and paid my salary for a whole year. This was June of this last year, 2024. And since June, I've been running full time Vets to Industry without having any worries about corporate America. And we have just shot up in these last 6 months with resources and new services, and it's just been amazing. So Han March and Joel Stewart from Signal Health Group basically single-handedly increased the abilities of Vets Industry with their support and their financial backing. So they're our diamond level sponsor now.
Wow. That is just an amazing,
long story,
amazing,
but
yeah,
it gives you the gist of what my transition was like.
No, it was a beautiful story. And just hearing that, because a lot of veterans do struggle. I mean, we have 200,000 veterans that get out every single year. And we usually don't just struggle when we get out. Sometimes it's the after effect of that. But we will go into that more in a little bit. We're just going to take a quick sponsor break, and then we'll be right back.
You have served. No matter if it was in the military or civilian service, you deserve to live good. Live good in health. Live good in wealth. Live good in so much more. At Live Good, the global wholesale buyer club, we empower you to take your mission to the next level. Are you ready to live good? We all struggle in life. No matter the barriers, we do not need to stay there. Each day is an opportunity to step into better health. Each day is an opportunity to step into wealth. Each day is an opportunity to step into dreams. Live Good, the Global Wholesale Buyers Club, empowers all these steps and more. Ready to be empowered? Grab the link to learn more.
Welcome back. Before we went to commercial break, Brian was talking about the transformation of him starting on LinkedIn, having a post go viral, and then transforming it into an entire business to help veterans to get to industry, and is now empowered to do this full time, which was an amazing part of the story. So we're going to bring him back to the stage to share those next steps and everything else. Brian, that was just a lot to go over and absorb. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that it didn't exist. And I remember going to Mick over and over again, and everybody keeps trying to recreate the wheel, and everybody's trying to do their own thing. And I remember I went through 600 agencies myself, not for transition, but for almost homelessness. So I went to 3 separate states, almost went homeless 4 separate times. And all the 600 agencies were usually like, can you come to us last? Can you come to us last? Can you come to us last? And then couldn't find the resources. Even 211.org didn't exist. So you're basically taking what 211's intention is and bringing that to veterans. So let's go into our next question. Is you've had a lot of trials while going over and getting this up and rolling in life, and even in the transformation. What keeps you going? What is that secret fuel when that pressure and tough times come, especially with dealing with this massive thing that you're doing for the veteran community?
So what fueled my fire was the fact that I was working in corporate America, and that, fed my belly, that gave the money for my family to survive. But vets to industry filled my soul. And so being able to do my passion, especially now full time, of helping transitioning military members, veterans, and military families find the free resources that are available for them and their families, and connect them with recruiters nationwide, which is something also that Best Industry does through our job board and through our monthly networking events that we host. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. It's just super, super needed. And it's just something that, like, I personally don't feel like I've done enough. I feel that way every day. Even though people say, "Oh, you've done incredible, you've helped hundreds of thousands of people," blah, blah, I don't feel it inside. I feel like, well, there's 200 to 240,000 transitioning military members a year, and not all of them have heard about Vets Industry. And so how many of them are still going to be part of the 2244 who kill themselves a day or unemployed? It's like, if I just hit another person that day, like I could have helped save a life and a family. And I don't know if I'm ever going to feel like I've done enough, or that I've hit a goal, if you will. Not until hopefully Best Industry is taught in TAP, and maybe in the NCO academies and airman leadership schools and your AICs and all those, so that people can learn that there's help out there beyond the gates that the DoD doesn't do, it doesn't tell us about. Ultimately, because the DoD is a warfighting machine, they're not a transitioning machine. So it takes organizations like ours and other organizations that are there to help and promote other organizations that is going to ultimately drive the success of transitioning military members and the veterans who are already out, the 19 million veterans who know nothing about free resources or Best Industry. And so the goal is to reach them all. And until I reach them all, I don't think I'm ever going to feel like I've done enough.
Whew. Well, I'm hopefully that we're helping as we're getting the message out there for you and everything else. And we would love to be that arm to go and assist. And that's why we uplift the military, the veteran, and the first responder and everything else, because that is the fuel for our fire. We saw marriages destroyed. We've seen the people unalive themselves. We've seen people go over and people getting divorced and separated and everything else. And it's just because of that one resource. Like, people probably don't understand there's resources for when you go on deployments, they have free trips. If you're going over and you're struggling in your marriage, there is conferences and workshops that are paid for. Active Guard and Reserve. There is things in the veteran world like Skill Bridge you were talking about. So it's just, yeah, I think me and you are on that same wavelength and page, is that we have these big goals and we hope that everybody goes over and hears them, but we have to understand that we just keep uplifting each and every day and continue to get the message out there.
One key is people need to understand this. People don't kill themselves because their girlfriend leaves them, or they're in financial ruin, or they're homeless. They kill themselves because of a loss of hope, for not having hope. If you can put a resource in front of them that can create a fix for their issue that they're going through, they're going to take that and they're going to use it. And so if you can drive hope for a service member or a veteran with whatever they're going through, which our resource library has over 1,000 resources on there right now that help in all different categories, then they're not going to take their own lives. They're going to grab on to that hope. So if you can create that hope for anyone in your life who you might see struggling, or maybe they're not even struggling, but you tell them about the resources, they might internally be struggling and you don't even know that the one thing that you said, hey, did you know you could do this? Hey, did you know you can get a free PTSD service animal while still serving in the military? Because there's tons of organizations that will do that. Train your animals for free. Either you have it or they find one for you. And maybe that service animal keeps them alive when they're transitioning out of the military. So you never know what you can do. So if you haven't had an opportunity, go to bestindustry.org, even if you don't need a resource, and learn the free resources that are out there so you can be that change agent for somebody's life.
Yeah, I know I'm definitely going to go over and do that after the show, because I try to help veterans as much as possible and everything else. And that's the thing, is the more we know, the better, because it's not about competition. It's about completion of missions. And when you have a mission, you have a sense of purpose and belongingness. And when you have that, you don't unalive yourself. You go over and then take that mission. Now you're helping other people, because that's why we stayed alive in the first place, in a sense, is that we had a mission, a sense of purpose and belonging. And when we leave and we make that transition, which I call transition BS, it's transformation, is that when you're making that transformation, but you don't have that again. Yeah, I had all those things gone. I'm like, lost house, had family members that were in mental health institutions and everything else. We were lacking money, all these resources. We moved like 4 states and everything else. And it was only 2 things: God and his people. Those were the 2 things. And even though it took a long time to find all those resources, I knew that eventually there was a resource there, like Operation Homefront. And then there was Wounded Warrior Program and things of the nature. There was a local church that was military friendly that helped us out. There was even the disabled American veterans. They gave $40 for gas. You know, those small beacons of hope was helpful, and then to learn to go over and to navigate that. So I totally agree on that. So our last question for the evening, before we let you talk more about veterans industry and tell us what your next steps is and everything else, is that 3 superhero tactics. It seems you've given so much to everybody in these tactics, but if you only had 90 seconds with someone on the phone or at Mick and they were struggling, what 3 tactics would you go over and give them so they can go over and start that from that survival mode to that thriving mode?
So the first thing, most important, is join LinkedIn. I know it's social media, and I know you might be a secret squirrel and you don't want your face and stuff out there, but telling you, joining LinkedIn is the key for your transition success. There's a massive veteran community on there of people that want to help and support you, both that are working in industry, that'll create relationships with you, and also just organizations you can find, chat groups you can find, all sorts of things. But the first step is get on LinkedIn, find best industry, and we will connect you with the individuals that you need to. The second tactic is, well, once you've done the LinkedIn, and hopefully you're doing it early, like do it as soon as you see this. You could have 10 years left in the military. Join LinkedIn, because you're going to need to start building your professional network, your relationships, and you're going to be able to do that through our networking events that Best Industry holds, through our national conference that we host on a cruise ship every year, which is incredible. And I'll talk a little bit more about that if I get an opportunity. But you're gonna need to build those professional relationships with recruiters, hiring managers, service members that have gotten out or now are in industry. Get on calls with them, mentorship calls, and be able to ask them the questions like, what does a day in your life work look like in this role, and identify if you even want to do that role before you spend all the time on the resumes and on the interviews, and to find out that the first day of work you want to throat punch somebody because it's the wrong culture fit. And nobody should want to start a job where they feel like they want to throat punch somebody the first day. So identifying the source, the LinkedIn, identifying the individuals that you need to connect with that can help you, guide you, mentor you, coach you into the career that you think you might want to do, will only benefit you. And the last thing is get as many um, mentors as possible, and like identify individuals that in your life that you look up to, because nobody can say that they're your mentor. You have to choose your own mentor, because if you don't have that kind of trust for somebody that's giving you guidance and assurances, it's not going to work. So you have to choose your own mentor. Somebody can't just choose you and say, I'm going to mentor you, or you're going to be my mentee. It doesn't work like that. It's the opposite. And I had 8 different mentors when I was transitioning out, all in different industries, all for different reasons, and I landed super successfully. My, you know, it's not everybody's gonna land as successfully as I did. It's just a fact. But you can find the resources that can get you that next step up, level up, finding employment, and then finding the people who have done it, made the changes, done good, and latch onto them, and download as much information from them as you possibly can. That's those are my tactics. The highest, the most that I could think of right now that would benefit people the most.
No, I would 100% agree on that. LinkedIn is free for a year when you get out. So remembering that particular guard and then finding your mentors and figuring out that space, that is huge. That was actually
And
a lesson
building those relationships for employment opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I would have did that. I literally got out. I wanted to run my business. I basically used my severance to get out, and I almost went homeless within a few months after getting out. And I had that realization today, specifically for day 339 and now my retirement, is you got to have your Timothy and you got to have your Paul. It's a biblical model, but same thing. It's like Timothy is the young guy that's eager and learning and everything else, and you're mentoring him. And then you got to have your Paul, that older person that's where you want to be. Because when you do it all by yourself and you pull yourself by your bootstrings, they snap. That old analogy is like, pull yourself by your boots. I'm like, you can't, only for so long. And then you snap the laces and now you're loose ankles and then you snap them off. That's why there's boot laces, to keep your ankle in place. So you're not supposed to continually pull your bootstraps. So I thought that was beautiful, those 3 superhero tags. So Brian, I want to thank you for going over and joining on the show. I'm going to give you the floor one more time to talk about anything else you want to talk about the industry, things that are coming up. And then once you close out and you have that 2-second pause, we're going to go to creds. But thank you, Brian, for just sharing this wealth of knowledge and wisdom.
I appreciate it. And yeah, so I do want to drop some nuggets and then some examples of things that we're doing in Best Industry right now and in the coming year. So first thing is make sure before you get out of the service, like within a year at least of getting out, you get civilian life insurance. This is something that I did not do when I got out, and I was uninsurable for 2 years because I got 100% permanent total disabled rating, and it took me 2 years to find an organization, a company that would actually, give me a life insurance policy. Uh, do it before you do your claim and before you get your VA disability status. It's super important. VGLI is extremely expensive. It increases each year. Civilian life insurance is going to be a savior for you and your family if something happens. And so, wanted to put that out there. Also, so for Best Industry, we've done quite a few things. One, we had the free resource library, which I've talked so much about. On there as well, we have an events page where you can join our monthly networking events, where we connect recruiters. We basically bring recruiters from all sorts of companies. We've got Amazon, Google, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Hyundai, FEMA, CSA, just Northwestern Mutual, like all sorts of companies coming on there that want to hire service members that are transitioning out, and veterans and military spouses. All right. Come on these events and share your elevator pitch. Create an elevator pitch. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, it is a 30-second to 1 minute discussion where you're identifying what you've done, who you are, what you're looking for, and how you will be able to succeed or bring advancement for the company that you're looking for. So get with a mentor, say, hey, I'd like to do an elevator pitch. I don't know what to do. Come reach out to us at Best Industry. We will help you with it. And every single event you come to, we force you to do your elevator pitch in each breakout room that you go to where you're meeting new people, and you just get better and better and better. So that the first time you give your elevator pitch is not in front of the recruiter for the role that you want. You've practiced it with real recruiters, with real veteran mentors, and you've gotten it down to such a science that is second nature to you. This is something that we do, and we want to continue helping people. Every year, I started mentioning this, we have our networking conference, and we did it this first year in August. We had 53 veterans and their families come on board Carnival Magic for a 7-day cruise down to, we went to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Turks and Caicos. Puerto Rico got hurricaned out, so we ended up going to Nassau. But we had 5 different seminars while on board the cruise ship to get to know each other better. We did a networking event. We did a networking seminar. We did one on family relationships. We did one on AI, one on cyber, and one on mental health. And these were really impactful. Next year, we're planning on doing things even bigger. We're going to be going on Carnival Horizon for an 8-day cruise down to Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, which are the top destinations in the Caribbean, is told by many people. And we are looking for as many people as they want to come on board, meet with recruiters, meet with veteran service organizations that we're reaching out to come on board and talk about what they do. Colleges and universities, we're talking to some of them to come on board and talk about their degree programs and their scholarships, and just have a great opportunity to connect and build relationships. Because you can go to a conference for a 2-day conference, and maybe you see someone a couple times, but you're not really building a massive relationship because you got to continue that. But if you're out on sea for 7 days, what we found out is you're going on excursions with their families. You're going to dinner, you're going to breakfast, you're playing basketball together, you're doing, you're going to the casino, whatever, and you're building these relationships. When we left that 7-day cruise, we were like best friends with everybody. It was just amazing. So give that a thought. We have some really good rates for it. We partnered with Butler Tours and Travel as our preferred cruise travel agent, and it's just amazing, the opportunities there. We have some other cool things that are coming up the horizon, but I'm going to wait and mention those while we go to networking events. So if you want to find out more about the services that we are providing and supporting the community in, like a food drive that we're doing in 3 different states prior to Thanksgiving, giving turkeys to residents of certain communities, and all sorts of other things that we got planned. Then you got to come to our next networking event. And the next networking event is November 16th, this Saturday, 2024. And then we have another one December 14th, 2024. And if you're watching this after those dates have passed, then go to vets2industry.org, go to our events section, and we have a calendar and a list of all the events that are coming due. We're planning on building a calendar for other organizations that they can put their events on there, because it's all about collaboration, not competition. We want you to know about everything that's possible that's out there, an advantage for you. And then we have a couple partners that I like to talk about. One is Rapid Ascent. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, definitely reach out to us, or go to rapidascent.com and click Get Started. Tell them that Vets Industry sent you and ask how you heard about us, and they're going to help you right away. And then there's one thing that when we get out, we don't know how to do is dress ourselves. We have we've been wearing a uniform for our whole career. So like, how do you build that professional look? And we've partnered with a company called Transition to Transformation, which is a suit company that does education. We have webinars with them, and they give great discounts for military veterans that are transitioning out, or veterans or military spouses. And just give them a check out, and it's a t2t.info is the website. So I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully I'll see you at the next networking event, and hopefully you guys register for our conference, our cruise, and I'll see you there. And you get to meet us, meet all the volunteers. We have over 100 volunteers globally. If you want to become a volunteer, love for you to come to our website and click on become a volunteer, and give back, and you'll be able to have the opportunity to do either marketing or data analytics or research, just IT. We have a whole bunch of different opportunities, HR, that you can build your resume up if you haven't had the opportunity to work in those sectors, but you want a career in that. We can give you the experience to do that. So appreciate you having me, and hopefully I didn't do too bad of a job for your podcast.